Talk about an interesting episode. Our guest is a YouTube sensation who gets deep and personal in our interview. We talk about the real reasons he bought a new Jeep Gladiator, which he has not even told his YouTube fans. We also discuss his adventure on the Alexander Mackenzie Trail, and he gives his version of the incident. This is also something that he has not discussed in depth on his own YouTube channel. Make sure to listen through to the end and get the inside scoop. Are you into four-wheeling, camping, and exploring? How about off-road racing like mud bogs, short course wheel-to-wheel racing, or even desert races? Well, you've come to the right place. Welcome to 4x4 Canada podcast. My name is Wes, and I've been four-wheeling since I was 6 weeks old. I have over 20 years experience in 4x4 shops, many more than that in the off-road racing, and a lifetime of exploring the backcountry across Canada. Every week we bring you a new guest where they give you their perspective on the industry. We discuss everything from four-wheeling, overlanding, every form of off-road racing across this great country, as well as we talk to Canadian manufacturers and 4x4 shops. Just a quick reminder that if you're looking for more episodes, you can find all of our episodes on 4x4canadapodcast.com or your favorite podcast sharing platform. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at 4x4canadapodcast.com. Now let's get to the show. Our guest today explores some of the most scenic British Columbia trails in his Jeep Gladiator and posts the trips on his YouTube channel. Yeah, another guy from BC with a Jeep, a drone, and a YouTube channel. However, our guest loves to put his unique spin on things, and I do not hear anyone complaining about more BC scenery shots. Teddy from Unwinding Roads, welcome to the 4x4 Canada podcast.
Hello, everyone.
Well, thank you for coming on. Loving your videos. So basically, you got this YouTube channel called Unwinding Roads, where you explored the back roads of BC in your Gladiator. It's been a pleasure to watch your channel grow from over the last few years. And we'll put this all in the show notes, but basically everybody can find you on YouTube and Instagram as the Unwinding Roads. Those are your main hangouts, right?
Absolutely, yeah. YouTube and Instagram.
So were you always into four-wheeling, and how did it lead into you starting your own YouTube channel?
So my dad was big into the outdoors. So we would always go hunting, fishing, camping with the family. The biggest difference is the way I grew up was when the roads got real rough and you needed four-wheel drive, it was time to turn back because a lot of times we were alone and you just, you didn't want to get too crazy. So almost always when the roads got too rough, it was time to turn back and head home. And that's how I grew up. When I hit my, teenage years, I knew everything about everything and I didn't want to go anymore. And sort of, live the lifestyle, like the city lifestyle. And it's so true what people say is as you grow older, you start to fall back on the things that you enjoyed as a child and started going out again. But it's almost like I tricked my wife because when I married her, we weren't into outdoors at all. And it wasn't until my son was 3 years old that I really started fishing again every weekend and getting out every weekend. So then we started going out with a trailer. We started doing the trailer thing. I had a Ram pickup. So just getting outdoors and that sort of thing. Every weekend we would go. And it led into us getting a Jeep. And we started doing the more, 4x4ing. And now you're looking for obstacles instead of avoiding them and turning around. And I loved it. That was so fun. The driving aspect of it is just so fun. Picking lines and, these little puzzles, how to get around things. At the time, to answer the YouTube question, this all kind of fell around at the same time where I had a boxing gym. And the boxing gym got shut down due to the pandemic. And I started editing videos to put online for boxing. And I absolutely hated watching myself talking like, this is how you throw a jab. This is how you throw a right hand. And I had to learn how to edit these videos. And it was just, the whole setup was horrible. So I ended up just filming our Jeep adventures, obviously watching the Story Till Now, Sean's channel. It was inspiring. So I was like, you know what, we're just going to film the Jeep stuff. My neighbor here, Mike, took us out on some of his adventures. I filmed it. And, my boxing videos, mind you, I didn't push it too much, but my boxing videos, if I hit 100 views, I was pumped. My first wheeling video hit 100 views the first day. And it was like, holy cow, like maybe I should, do more of this. And then, one thing led to another with the YouTube channel. I ended up meeting Sean from the Storytell Now, who became a mentor to the channel, a mentor to me.
Yeah.
We became very good friends very quickly. And, that was it's been wild. It's been a wild ride. I've been trying to keep my head above water ever since, the ball really started rolling, and that was it.
So how did you come up with the name Unwinding Roads?
So that was actually a joke. The Unwinding Roads name was a big joke. So the best man at my wedding he's my best friend. I've known him forever. And he owns a car dealership. The car dealership name is Winding Roads Motor Cars. Or Winding Roads Motors or something like that.
Yeah.
So as a joke, I was like, I'm naming, because the channel used to be my personal name. It was that the first 3 videos were uploaded under my personal name.
Right.
And as a joke, I said, you know what, I'm going to name mine Unwinding Roads. So we laughed about it. I did it. And then, I think it was the Jones Lake video was one of my first videos. And that one hit like over 1,000 views, which to me is huge. Yeah. And was like, okay, well, I guess now I'm keeping the name, and and that's it. And then I made the logo for it, and
yeah,
that was it.
The logo's cool with the hang loose.
Thank you.
That's one of the more unique videos. Usually everybody's got, exploring or mountains in it or something like that. Yours is just, it stands out.
Thank you.
So it's great.
It still has the mountains and the river, or not the river. I guess it's like a beach and it's still got the things, but with a hang loose little logo.
Yeah, it definitely stands out for sure. Exactly.
Which sort of fits my personality. I'm all about having fun.
So is your dad still with us?
My dad is still with us.
What does he think of you, after taking you out as a kid? What does he think about your videos and what you do?
He thinks that we're absolutely crazy. Like the things you guys do is absolutely nuts. And but he loves it because, now he's seeing me get out there all the time.
And
he's
enjoy it.
To still get out because he's getting older. He's got some back pain as well.
Yeah.
Hard life. He's a construction worker, carpenter his whole life. So he's physically, he's getting old, I guess. Yeah, it's physically harder for him. We still go hunting every year, and we hang out. We share stories, and but it's wild because, like I said, he was out all the time, and he was crazy. He had like a 2-wheel drive Datsun pickup truck. The first time I did whipsaw, I came back. And I was like, oh, I did whipsaw. It's crazy. All these things. He's like, yeah, we did it in my Datsun. I was like, no, you didn't. I was like, there's some of the things that's impossible. He's like, no, we had to stack rocks and we had to do it, but we did it. It's like, holy jeez.
It's really funny because I grew up in the 70s and 80s with my parents doing off-road racing and going to the events with 4x4 clubs and, just, I guess we called it truck camping back then, but doing overlanding, going over Poison Mountain, China Head Mountain, over to Bray Lorne and that. And they did it in stock trucks, Jeep pickup or Dodge Ram Charger. And, especially when I brought the Ram Charger over China Head or Poison Mountain, it was a 4-inch lift in 33s with a 440. And I thought that thing was awesome, right? But you look at vehicles now and that's just nothing. But these guys did it. There's so many times I look back at pictures of my dad's, CJ5 or his stock, Bronco in the early 70s, and they did all these trails that we're doing in a stock vehicle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
crazy.
It's a little different. A lot of trails are more chewed up in that now, but still, it's pretty impressive what they did back then with manual steering and manual brakes.
Yep. It's wild. And they didn't have trailers or anything, right? Like it was just you packed the lunch kit basically.
Yeah,
that was it.
Exactly. 4 leaf springs and skinny stock size tires, and
Now we got awning. I showed my dad my awning. I pulled it out to show him, and he's like, "That's really nice, but what's wrong with a tarp?" Like a tarp takes too long to set up.
Exactly, and even mapping, right? I mean. I use Gaia. I mean, not sure you use Gaia as well.
Me as well, yeah.
So, I mean, Gaia, and I've got a couple hard copies of the BC Backroads map book.
Yep.
But back then they had these old Forest Service maps that they had to fold out and follow and look at. And now I'm totally messed up if I don't know exactly where I am on the map with the GPS.
If your phone dies or something, it's like, well, I guess you have a charger. But
Yeah, and even I've been using a Zoleo lately, right?
Yep.
They sent me one as to use as a media thing, and sending messages. We don't have cell service. We would spend 5 days in the middle of nowhere, and didn't even have cell phones back then, right? So
Yeah, it's interesting because it is changing, and we're part of that generation where, like we were sitting by the campfire when we were hunting, and then the Starlink came over,
right.
the all the satellites in a row, and my dad was freaking out. He didn't know what it was, so he had no idea. He's like, "Those aren't satellites. The way they're moving like that, it's not satellites." I was like, "Yeah, it's exactly what it is."
Yeah.
It's almost like the sky is getting polluted, but at the same time, it's technology. And what do you do?
Yeah, it's a whole new world, and it makes you wonder what's next up for overlanding or the four-wheel drive industry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in the last 20, 30 years, even in the last, how long's an iPhone been around? What, 10, 15 years?
Yeah.
And look how far it's come,
right?
In the last 10, 15 years. So what's the next 20 years going to bring for us for technology? Never mind electric vehicles and all that as well, right?
That's going to be an interesting one that I'm going to be watching very closely, because that electric vehicles thing is, I do think soon it's going to be a viable option for off-roading. I don't think it's not there right now.
No, and it's got lots of room to work and improve. And everybody says, there's some Teslas are catching on fire, but I mean, there's a lot of Jeeps that caught on fire, had engine fires for a few years, and the power grid's not there, but it takes time to build that, and it's gonna be. I agree, it's gonna be really interesting. With the Rivian, I think is definitely a game changer. I think. I mean, the Hummer, it's. I don't know how, sorry, Mike, but
yeah, I just found out how fast those things are. There's 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds.
It's incredible.
Okay, but how much does that thing weigh? And
9,000 pounds.
Right. So how fast does it stop? Because now you're going to have people going 0 to 60, 2.8 seconds. And it doesn't stop like a Ferrari. I can tell you that much. Maybe it does. Yeah. I don't think it does, though.
Exactly. I was listening to a podcast and they're talking about how the new GM has up to like a 15,000 pound payload, or it was a lot more, but it was like stupidly amount. It was like 4 times what the average half ton has for a payload. And I'm thinking, well, that's great. It can get up and it can move it, but they haven't changed the braking at all. And it's not going to be able to stop a huge payload either, right? So with the Hummer, with it being, I think it's 9,300 pounds, biggest concern I got is being able to get it unstuck.
Yeah.
That's a heavy, when it's sucked into the mud, that's a heavy vehicle.
Hummers don't get stuck.
I have to admit, I haven't seen Mike stuck very often, but
but you know what he has going for him? He's a very good driver, and he knows his rig very well.
Yeah,
so
exactly. He's definitely a good driver. For the listeners, if you don't know who Mike is, and he's a Hummer fanboy, a good personal friend of mine and Teddy's, and that's Mike from The Unexpected Off-Road. So check him out on YouTube. The guy wheels a Hummer H2, and like Teddy said, he's a great driver. He knows his rig, and he knows the limitations of it as well, which is a big thing, which takes a lot of people a long time to learn. Right? So
even on the whipsaw, he was pushing it. He was pushing it hard, and he was finding limits, but it was always safe. He never did anything completely wild or reckless where now we have to help him out or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I've got the utmost respect for Mike. Like you say, he wheels it hard, but he doesn't put himself in danger. I've been out with him a few times, and we've both said, okay, no, we're not going to do this. It's, we don't feel comfortable with it, or we don't want to wreck our rig or whatever, right? So let's totally skip like 15 questions I had lined up for you. Since you're talking about the Hummer trip, how did a Jeep guy end up on a Hummer trip on the whipsaw?
Okay, so it's a funny story. Honestly, I kind of bring it back to my personality and how I am with people in general. I really do enjoy the company of everybody, and I'm definitely a people person. There is a fellow that I train in Coquitlam and who owns a shop, and the shop is called Trick Factory Customs. And outside of Trick Factory Customs was this crazy Hummer, and this Hummer is just completely jacked up on 42-inch tires. Then this Hummer started popping up on my Instagram feed. So I send him a message. I'm like, hey, is this the Hummer that I've seen at Trick Factory? He's like, it is. I was like, no way. So we're automatically friends, right? His name's Chris.
Yep.
Again, me and Chris ended up getting along really well. And Chris put on the Hummers at Whipsaw event. And he's like, do you want to come? Bring some Jeeps. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come, of course. So I did, and then I put a Hummer sticker on my Jeep so that I could fit in, and then away we went. It was super fun. It was like everybody was on the same page. Everybody's out there to have fun. There's just enough, making fun of each other. Like,
yep.
A Jeep can do that, or a Hummer can do that. But it was really cool, actually. Sidestepping a little bit, but it was really cool to see how the rigs handled the obstacles differently, because the Hummers have no flex at all, right?
And you're out with 3 different versions of the Hummer: the H1, the H2, and the H3s,
right?
And different modifications. Then you're out there in your Gladiator,
right?
So,
and we had an H3 that was solid axle swap.
That thing is so badass.
It is. It really is.
Like it looks great. It works well. From all the videos I've seen of it, it works very, very well. He's done a great job on that thing.
And the reliability, like he really pushes that thing and it doesn't break. I don't know how. But
and that's a H3, I think it's called the Alpha, right?
Alpha,
where it's the pickup with the V8 in it.
Yep.
And he's done I can't remember the gentleman's name off the top of my head, but he's done a great job on that.
His name is Rob, and his Instagram is Trunk Monkey.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's the best title ever.
Yeah. He's an awesome guy, and wheeling with him was awesome. There was a guy, I can't remember how old he is. I want to say 77 in his Hummer H3. And this guy, he's kept up with all of us. He was awesome. His name was Brad. It was just
I think I saw that in your video, him going through a washout or something like that. And you mentioned that he was 77 or high 70s. Yeah. That's awesome. That's great to hear.
Yeah,
for sure. So you had a good trip on the Whipsaw.
Excellent trip on the Whipsaw. Mike was there.
Yeah,
and it was an awesome trip. Now we're going to backtrack a little bit. I love wheeling with Mike. He's one of my favorite people to wheel with because he's just a good time, and
just laid back and chill, and
especially doing the YouTube thing. Like, a lot of people don't understand what it takes to get a shot. It takes us 3 times longer to do anything, because if there's a water crossing, we got to cross it, put the camera down, cross it again, and then cross it for the video, pick up the camera, and then keep going, right? So it's 3 times we got to cross that river.
Yeah, and that's something that I've talked about with Mike and Jeep from BC, and that's why you find a lot of YouTubers doing the same trails or something like that, because not a lot of people want to sit there and wait, and I've been out in trails on runs with Mike, and we'll kind of hold back so that, we can do some video shots where everybody else kind of goes ahead, or, it's because not everybody wants to sit and wait for these goddamn YouTube geeks to do their thing, right?
It's so true. I get it. My friend I mentioned with the Winding Roads, he came out with us one time, and then he says, I'm not going out with you guys again if you're filming. Like, it's not for me. So
it definitely takes a different mentality, right? If quite often I'll be out, like even my friend Corey and I did 3 or 4 days camping last weekend. So the first day of this big snowfall, and I think I took maybe 3 photos over the course of 3 days.
Wow.
Right. We were just enjoying it in the moment, and we never really thought about it. And after, we're sitting around, we're like, we should have taken more photos.
Yeah. It's a very common thing. My friend Mike was an exception to the rule, but pretty much everyone else that comes out with me, they don't want to stop either. But when the video comes out, they can't wait to go again, because it's just how it goes, right? Like, you capture those moments, and that's what it's all about. That's why we make the videos.
Yeah,
just to capture those things.
Well, it's definitely good memories,
Absolutely.
And especially for your family. You've got a young family, and I want to say congratulations to you and Cynthia. You're expecting a new little girl next week.
Yep. next week.
I didn't realize
yeah.
it was coming up that fast, but yeah, next
Yeah.
week. So, congratulations to both of you. And
Thank you.
What does your son Theo think about all the changes coming up?
He's actually been a trooper through everything. He's super hyper kid. And
I've noticed.
yeah, and he actually doesn't like change. So
Okay.
with everything happening, we were expecting more of like meltdowns and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But no, he's completely stepped up. He's
Cool.
grown about 3 years in the past 2 months. Like he's a completely different kid, and it's exciting. And even with the YouTube thing, like he wants to be in the videos more. He watches me edit sometimes. Okay, here you should put this and this.
Nice.
Always
Well, I was
trying
going
to
to
be
say,
funny.
I have noticed lately over probably the last 3-4 videos that you've been including Theo a bit more. Like when you guys mentioned that you are pregnant, and I've noticed that he's been involved more, which, he seems to be really hyped about it too. So.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. His ideas are always funny too. He's like, "Oh, let's do this," and it's like, "Okay, let's try it and see what happens."
That's awesome, though. I mean, it's better than him wanting to sit there and watch or play video games all day or whatever, right? So,
yeah,
that's awesome that he's wanted to help you out with your videos.
Yeah.
So
we're trying. I'm really trying, desperately trying to, because he hates the wheeling part. It's too much sitting in the carts for too long.
Right.
So we're talking about getting a tent trailer now, so that we can set up base camp. They can hang out at base camp. I can go do some wheeling and then come back to base camp and then hang out, right, as a family. So yeah, we're going to be trying that out. I don't know how it's going to work. I'm hoping it works.
So new tent trailer, or new to you tent trailer.
Yep.
Is that why you bought the new Gladiator?
Spoiler alert, eh? When does this come out?
We got good. This will come out on Wednesday, so we can hold off. We don't have to talk about. I was going to mention that earlier. We don't have to talk about it, but I did notice you got a new Gladiator in your latest video.
No, we're going to talk about it. This is exclusive just for you.
Oh, beautiful.
You're going to beat me to it. So, yeah, so that's exactly it. I was looking for a tent trailer and growing family, now it's going to be a family of 4 with plus a dog, and the dog is my baby. He's with me all the time. And, so we were thinking to get a tent trailer. And my white Jeep, the one that everybody knows, is a 6-speed manual. And with the tires, the lift, everything, and all the weight once I'm loaded in, I couldn't imagine adding another 2,200 pounds going up the hills. It was already pedal to the floor between 3rd and 4th gear just to maintain a highway speed. Unloaded is a different story. It would pull no problem. So I've since heard that you can make some modifications to it to make it work, but now it's too late. I've already traded it in for the Eco Diesel, which has a lot more torque. I'm going to build it similar, not quite as crazy, so that I can tow, and then we'll go from there. Because once I start towing, I'll know if I can get bigger tires, if I can, all that stuff. I'll be making those modifications as we go. And the other part of it is I'm going to also be modifying the tent trailer itself. I'll be lifting that up a bunch and putting huge tires on it, and to get that clearance.
The spring over and
exactly. Yeah. And then we'll see where we can take it. I've been talking to the same guys that built the Hummer at Trick Factory, and we're talking about putting some sort of skid plates or something, or like an exoskeleton around the bottom. Yeah. Again, this is all spoilers. Like I haven't talked about it on my channel at all, and hopefully just make it super cool, and I can just drag it over some I don't know, logs or something, and get it to some cool spots.
That's awesome.
Or not, and then you guys all get to watch me fail miserably.
Well, sometimes failing gives you better more ratings and more followers, right?
Well, this is what people don't understand is it's real life, like what we're filming is real life. So like you can't tell me that there hasn't been, if there's been moments where you haven't been scared, then you're not wheeling hard enough, And the thing is we're doing things like, and then I get scared. I'm sort of the new guy in our group there, and I'll get scared, and it's captured on camera, and then people just love to pick on me for that one. But
roast you, and we'll get into that last trip I know what you're talking about there. We'll get into that in a minute, but I agree that there's been plenty of times that I've been scared, and it's like what the hell have I got myself into, right? I think it's a great idea bringing the tent trailer, doing a spring axle flip on it, and go larger tire, and like you say, get some skid plates in the bottom and go for it, right? So it's gonna be a whole new learning experience in regards to driving, so especially being a different vehicle. I've noticed as I've changed vehicles that I've got to change my driving style to fit the new vehicles, especially before I modify it, right? So, but putting a trailer on behind, that's going to be a whole new driving
totally
experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the fact that you can bring the family with you, that's,
right.
Well,
and I won't be doing anything extreme with it. Like, it'll be set up. You
say that camp. Now.
I'm definitely, without them in the vehicle, I'm definitely going to see how far I can pull this thing.
Right.
I might do Eagle Mountain with it. I'm just joking.
But it's there's lots of people pulling trailers and working. You've got to gain the experience on it, and learn how to back it up properly and make your corners wider. And
we did the trailer. We had a big, well, not a big, but 22-foot trailer for we had 6 years. We went almost every weekend. Yeah, like it was very rare that we would miss a weekend.
That's great.
So it was, so I've towed, but again, it's different on the road than it is on the trails, I'm sure.
Well, I think you guys are going to love it. It's going to be be a good time for sure. So I can't wait to see the modifications you're doing on the trailer. Also looking forward to some of the modifications you do on the Gladiator. Now you've just got this thing and you've already done your first modification on it, the Kraken.
The Kraken.
So what's the Kraken all about? Basically, you just released this video like this week, like 2 days ago, right? So let's talk about the Kraken modification.
So the Kraken was developed by Epic Adventure Outfitters, and they totally nailed it with this product. And I find that the price is right where it should be. The quality of this unit is awesome. And what it is it works with the ARB twin compressor, and it basically mounts it underneath the passenger seat. From there, you run another line to the driver's side, and it comes with all the hoses, comes with all the fittings, everything you need. It even comes with the zap straps to strap, and they even tell you where to zap strap the lines, how to do everything. Jeeps all, I'm going to make a joke, but Jeeps all leak. So they come with rubber plugs so that you can let all the water out underneath the carpet. And so you can easily run wires up through those rubber plugs. And they show you how to do everything and then seal it properly. With it, you got the air compressor. And because the hoses are so short, it's much faster than anything else on the market. It'll inflate your tires super fast. I have small tires. I don't know what size they are, but I deflated them to 0. And then I pumped them up to 36 PSI, and it took just under 6 minutes.
Wow, for all four.
Yep.
So I know they're Jeep guys. Do you know if they're working on a Tacoma kit?
Right. So a couple people asked about that. I'm sure if enough people ask, they'll have to do it, won't they? I would think so.
I would think so. I think they'd be crazy not to. I mean, I know they're pretty heavy into the Jeep stuff, but especially a kit that's all pre-done. I mean, you could probably make your own, but is it going to be as good quality? And you got to mess around with making brackets and all that stuff. So is it worth it in the long run, right? So I would definitely be interested in a Tacoma kit.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to them about it because there's been a few people that have asked. Again, they do specialize in Jeeps, so I don't know if it's a market that they really want to tap into. They're they keep going crazier and crazier with their Jeeps. I mean, I can't spoil anything about what they're doing, but they're definitely worth keeping an eye out because it's
I've heard wild. They got some pretty cool things coming up.
Yeah, so, like crazy things.
Yeah, we'll keep that under wraps and let them divulge that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't spoil their stuff. I'll spoil my own, but I can't spoil for them.
So let's go back to the Alexander Mackenzie Trail.
All right.
When we're talking about getting nervous or scared in the moments kind of idea. So you've had a lot of really cool adventures, but your recent trip to the Alexander Mackenzie Trail with Sean from the Story Till Now, that's got to be close to the top of your list for epic adventures in BC. So can you explain, first of all, for our listeners, what the Alexander Mackenzie Trail is? Because we have listeners all across Canada. And then also why the trail itself is epic in regards to the history and just the plain awesomeness of the trail.
Mm-hmm. So the trail itself runs from basically a town called Quesnel, just north of that. I think it's just north of that. And it'll run west towards Bella Coola. You're in the woods, deep into the woods. You know, you gotta bring jerry cans of gas. We all brought an extra 125 liters of gas.
And it was originally the trail that Alexander Mackenzie himself used to get to the ocean, right?
Right. So that's what makes the trail, in my opinion, it's the most historic trail in North America, period. Because there is no other trail that was used the way that one was. So Alexander Mackenzie came over or he wanted to get across Canada by land. And the first time he failed. The second time he met up with the natives and they used this trail for Greece at the time. So they showed him the way, basically escorted him through. And he ended up completing, from ocean to ocean by land. And he was the first person to do it. Since then, there's a hiking trail, and it's become, most parts of it have become a wheeling trail. And when you do it, like you're way out there. We're talking, you're 4 hours away from the nearest gas station. And and this is like on trail. They said if you end up getting injured, you're 2 hours away from the helicopter showing up. So, even if you hit that SOS button, you're waiting for 2 hours. Before the helicopter shows up. The trail itself took us 10 days. We were a group of originally 4, and then we ended up finishing with a group of 3. The wheeling part of it, other than the one section, the wheeling part of it is not that bad. Is super long days, and I took a lot of damage. We all did. And the reason for the damage is like we were pushing hard. We were doing 15-hour days of chainsawing to get about 15 kilometers a day.
Yeah, so, it seems everybody, even if somebody goes 2 weekends before, it seems to be that there's always tree cutting on that trail.
Yeah.
I don't know how or why, but there's always full days of tree cutting.
Yeah. And it's like, and we went to work and the mosquitoes were crazy. At one point, like I'm wearing a full net because you couldn't even breathe because the mosquitoes were just all in your mouth and you couldn't even, it was crazy. We packed 4 chainsaws. It was 2 electric and 2 gas. The electric saws, we're talking about the EV cars, and the electric saws are absolutely dominating out there for almost everything. One
so bad.
Yeah, it's crazy so mine has an 18-inch blade and it'll cut through anything. Where you lose is if there's multiple cuts, you're going to run out of battery. So you would need another battery ready to go, which, those batteries are very expensive. Whereas in a gas chainsaw, you just fill up the gas, you keep going. But as far as speed and, power and everything, they're right there. I mean, and you don't have to start it. You don't have to bring extra fuel. You don't have to mix anything. You just go.
Yeah.
So yeah, the electric chainsaws were, went to work, and they held up the whole Alexander Mackenzie. No issues. Like they didn't burn out. They didn't. So like that says a lot right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But yeah, the trail itself, 10 days of like hard chainsawing. We did hit a section. I don't know if you want me to talk about the section that we hit.
It's up to you. It's totally up to you.
We ended up hitting a section where, so Braun is another guy that was on our trip, and he really, really knows this stuff. There's a lot of, people bashing me for not trusting him and stuff. And Braun obviously knows me very well. Sean knows me very well. There was no trust issue whatsoever.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to him, and that wasn't coming out of a I know better place. It was coming from this is 15 hours into the day, like we're all beat up, we're all tired. It's getting dark. We got to hurry. As I was moving forward, I know my vehicle, and I was certain that the rear end was going to slide off of this rock.
And it wasn't just a slide off a rock either, right?
Right.
there was a full bank below you with a, isn't that where another car had slid over before?
So there was another car at the bottom of this cliff. The person in that vehicle had passed away from there. So there was a cross in front of me. And, I've got a baby on the way. So I'm extra cautious.
Yeah.
But at this point, Sean had already been through. Braun had already been through. My vehicle weighs more than both of theirs. Mine's taller than both of theirs. My tires weren't as, like, I don't have mud tires. I had the all-terrains.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of factors that went in. Braun assured me that I would be okay. And in the big picture, I was okay. I never did slide off the rock, but I started about 8 inches away from the edge, and I ended with, like, my wheel was off, but it didn't actually fall off yet. But I would say another 2 inches and I was going over. And just being stopped, it was sliding down. So it got to the point where that's it. I wasn't going to, push it any further. They all agreed, like, it wasn't time to keep pushing, and it was time to winch me off the side of the ledge there. The first pull with the winch, the soft shackle let go. It wasn't put on properly. So I was in the vehicle, and you start getting winched up, and then snap. I thought my winch line snapped, and you sway back down towards there. So now my anxiety is through the roof. Remember, we're 2 hours away from
Your balls
a
are in your
helicopter.
throat.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in the vehicle 2 hours away from a helicopter showing up if I did roll over. Sean and I talk about it, and it's like, I don't think I would have died, but I definitely would have been very messed up. He says I probably would have died. Like, and that's how serious it was. And Braun agreed. He was like, we got to get you off this ledge and then back out. He's like, I'm all for finishing the trail, but not at this point. But anyway, so then with this much risk, I mean. So then the next thing that happened was the tree fell. So the tree that I was winched to, it fell, and you're tied to the tree, so the tree falls towards the Jeep. So that happened. The second pull, third pull, I wasn't going to wait to see what happened. The third pull, that's when I was out of the vehicle, completely stressed out to the max after the long days. They're yelling at me because they want to get going. Obviously, they don't have time for me having a fit about it. And at that point in my head, I was like, there's no reason for me to be in the vehicle. Just pull it back onto the road. I'll get in, continue driving, and then we'll get off of this ledge.
Right. Put it in neutral and go forward.
Right. Yeah. And then again, in my head, and I'm wrong, but in my head, the way it was rigged up, I said, if I were to flip this thing on purpose, this is exactly how I'd rig it up. The winch point on the front bumper and the back bumper up to a tree. So now you're pulling it up, and that's exactly what I would do. It was just rotisserie to flip over.
Right.
Braun explained it to me. It's like, no, that's not how it works, because there's tension on the line the whole time. So it can't flip, which makes sense. And then he started pulling the winch line in, and I saw my vehicle moving the direction it's supposed to move, exactly how Braun said it was. And then at that point, I was like, okay, I'm good to go. And that was actually the easy part. The hard part was right after that, which I made it look super easy because I just walked right through that part. But yeah, so the whole stressful situation there it had nothing to do with trusting Braun. He knows I trust him 100%. It had everything to do with just being a very high stress, extremely exhausted situation, which in reality, if we had just spent the night without doing that section, the next day it would have been a probably completely different outcome.
The one thing I will say is that it never looks as scary on video as it does in person.
Yeah. Well, and it's going to be interesting because as the video is a pretty popular video, and as people go there to see it, they're going to see that it's actually not that bad. It really isn't. You and your rig will have no problem with it. We're talking, my truck is 7,300 pounds loaded. And then I got my rooftop tent really high up. I'd say it's about 7 feet up there. It's a heavier tent. It's 180 pounds, plus the rack, plus the gear, plus all that extra 125 extra liters of fuel that we had. I think at that point it was only 100 liters of fuel extra, but I don't know the math on that. 100 extra.
It's still heavy.
Is extra heavy. Yep. I had all the food. I was running 2 fridges for everybody. Everybody had a job to do, right? So mine was I had to carry the food and deal with the food.
Well, that's why they didn't want you to roll into the ditch.
That's right. That's why they wanted to make sure that I was okay. But in all honesty, it's like, I get it. Like, everybody can do that one. No problem. Braun did it. Yeah. Sean did it easily. No problem at all. When I saw Sean do it, I was like, okay, I'll probably be okay. Once we started rolling on it, I saw that my rear side was starting to slide down. And then that's when I started getting a little bit stressed out. And I was telling Braun, I was like, I'm
little bit
worried
of
about my
panic set
backside.
in, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And I'm telling him,
yeah,
I'm like, my backside is gonna slide. And he's like, don't worry, it's not. He was right. It didn't, but
yeah.
it was on its way to do it. And then it got to the point where even he was like, no, it's gonna go. So
You know yourself as to why you reacted the way that you did. And, if there's any guy, to be honest, if there's any guy I'd want to have on the trail with me, it'd be Braun. Just from what I have seen in the videos, his knowledge, his skill sets. I mean, I think he's a guy I'd love to have on the trail with me. But in the end, why you reacted the way that you did. And to be all the people that are commenting on the YouTube videos and that, screw them. It's easier to say that than it is. Yeah. But I mean, in the end, you guys are able to talk through it and get you through. I can understand it. You're going from, your tire being 8 inches away from the cliff to 2 inches or over the edge. And then also the tree breaks that you're winching to. And I can totally understand it. And then never mind the throw in the 15-hour day and the lack of food. And I can totally get it,
Yeah. And we got, and Braun knows the guy, he's gotten me through so many situations. He knows how I am, right? So he did. And the thing about Braun that I have all the respect for in the world is he was impatient. He had a long day just like I did. He didn't want to deal with me having that fit or whatever, but he still explained it to me, showed me why I was okay, and then we got through it. And then the next section was a piece of cake. But I tell everybody, I'm like, when I'm talking to somebody and I see their rig, I'm like, you'll be able to do it, no problem. I'm like, that's the issue isn't that. Like, I want to see somebody go do it with my rig. Yeah. It's like,
well, like you say, with a high center of gravity and there's a lot of stuff to it. So
it's manual transmission, which also, when you're,
that's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know a lot of people really love their manual transmissions off road. Personally, I still like my automatic especially for situations like that, right?
Yeah.
Where you're not having to, you're having to touch the brake, the clutch, and the gas all at the same time with, 3 pedals with 2 feet. So you guys finished up the trip. Now you had to end up going into town to get some fuel.
Yeah.
On one occasion, right?
We actually 2. We had to move back to refuel 2 times. We did end up with extra fuel. We didn't know how that was going to play out. Realistically, it was about another 100 liters of fuel each rig used, average 100 liters of fuel each rig used extra. So it's your whole tank plus another 100 liters.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
We had extra. I had enough in the jerry cans to get home, but we made 2 trips back to get more fuel.
Yeah.
Because it's scary. I mean, we did, I think on a whole tank, I'm not exaggerating, a whole tank, we did about 80 kilometers. That's how much start and stop. And like I said, it's 15-kilometer days.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like start, stop. And that's like shutting the truck off while you're chainsawing. And then you get back in and then you're only going another 100, 200 yards before chainsawing again.
and they got some pretty deep river crossings on there too, don't they?
They do. Yeah, those are fun. I like those. I can swim really well, so I'm never too worried about the river crossings, but they were pretty hectic. Like my Jeep was getting pushed down the river at one point a little bit.
Yeah, they're pretty much up the hood and pushing. So
and that's at the end of summer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd never want to do that in the spring, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, when you got to the end of the trail, I haven't done the Alexander Mackenzie trail, but do you just come out into a cut block and it's like, okay, we're done kind of idea? Or is there... basically.
So the trail has changed quite a bit. So back in the day, you would do the whole trail, whereas now, I forget the name of the lake. They have the lodge there. So you get to a lodge, you'll know it when you see it. From that point forward, the natives don't want trucks going through anymore. Mm-hmm. So they've actually cut out all the deadfall, but only wide enough for a person to hike.
Right. Yeah.
So, you have to respect that. And we did. Yep. And once we get to that point, you say hi to the lovely people that are there. Everybody we met on the trail was awesome. All 5 people. And then, And then, yeah, you backtrack a little bit, go around the lake, and it just spits you out onto an FSR. And that's when it hits you. It's like, because almost every day I was like, I can't wait for this to be over. And then as soon as it was over, it was like, I don't know. It's pretty wild. I wouldn't.
I had a friend
now.
that did it, and he said the ending was sort of anticlimactic.
Yep.
He's like, you're pushing through, you're doing all these hard days, and then he said we just popped out into a cup lock, and we're like, oh, I guess we're done, kind of idea, right?
Yeah, once you get past, you do your river crossings, and then there's a couple of locals that use those roads, so they take pretty good care of them. Of the trail, and then you get through that, and then it opens right up to like an FSR cup lock, exactly it. And then it might be almost worth doing it backwards, because then you end up at Cluscoil, Quesnel.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it was
but definitely an adventure for sure.
I think everybody needs to do it once. I swore I would never do it again, and at this point I actually want to go back and do it again, because just to see how different it would be the second time around. Yeah. Sean attempted it, and then he did about half. And then this time around, he was, he planned it for months. And I was actually laughing at the whole situation. I didn't tell him I was laughing, but I was laughing at the whole situation, because he was like, we need this much food. We need chainsaws. You need 3 chains for each chainsaw. You need files.
Yep.
And it's like, we went through 2 chains on mine. I had 1 chain left over.
So you're laughing at him making all these preparations. You're thinking, what the hell kind of idea, right? And then sure enough, you pretty much need it.
Yeah. It's like, at this point, it's like, we've done some pretty good wheeling. I've seen what I need to see. Yeah. And it's like the trail itself is not that difficult, but like I took so much damage from, I was usually the last one. I'm always the last one. I do it on purpose. I like to watch the rigs do this thing. That's what makes it enjoyable to me. So I like to sit back, and as they're going through, the trail is so tight from all the deadfall that people cut. And if one of them just barely touched, if the tire just barely touched the bottom stump, then all the top ones would kind of fall down, and then they'd be sticking out more. And it's like, you really have to pick and choose, which ones you're stopping for to cut shorter, or which ones you're just going to drive through. And if you're stopping for all the ones that you have to cut, I'd be on the trail still. Like, it'd take months to get through it.
So all that body damage, is that why you got a new Jeep?
No. The body damage, it's funny how it all worked out though, because I came home and my fenders were strapped on, and it was like, but the Jeep fenders, they have clips, right? And you just clip them back on, but I didn't have any of the clips with me, and the clips that I had broke. So at one point my fender fell right off. I had to ratchet strap it to the rooftop tent just to get it to camp. Like, it's just one fender up there. Yeah, it was crazy. I broke my awning. I backed up and hit a tree. That's a funny story, actually. Yeah, so that's actually a hilarious story. So once we hit the trail, as I mentioned, there's all this deadfall that sticks out, right? And they're hitting my fenders, and I'm freaking out. I don't want to damage my Jeep. I actually drive pretty carefully, because these Jeeps are not cheap, right? They're expensive. So I angled my mirrors down towards the fenders so that I can see the fenders. We hit the section where we had to back up. So I'm backing up. I'm looking in the mirrors. All of a sudden, boom! I was like, what did I just hit? Because I hit it hard. I get out and I hear everybody on the radio, what was that? What was that? And it was a tree that was like, it hit my awning. So you can imagine how high it was. So I backed up and I hit it because my mirrors were pointed down towards my fenders.
Exactly.
So I was like, I'm an idiot. So then put my mirrors back to where they should be. And sure enough, I lost 3 of my 4 fenders.
You should have just stayed with it down, right?
I should have just, But yeah. But they just, like I said, they just pop off with clips. So they just go right back on.
Exactly.
It wasn't so bad.
That's awesome. So I'm going to bounce around a little bit here.
Yeah.
What are you using for camera equipment on your videos?
This is my camera setup right here, is a Canon EOS R6 and with the Rode microphone. I'm a big fan of sound. I want it to sound good.
Yes.
So that's why I use that microphone. I want to get better with the sound part of it. Like, the tires crunching and stuff. We always had music anyway, but I want to get better with the crunching. And It is a little bit difficult, especially in the wheeling community. There's a lot of people that swear, and so I can't really use a lot of the audio anyway. But yeah, I have that. I do have a gimbal that I'll use sometimes. I'm trying to get away from the gimbal a little bit more shaky camera.
Right.
Gives it more of a real feel. My drone is the Mavic Air 2S. It's a newer one. So I flew it at night for my aux beam video. I guess the bottom sensor didn't pick up that there was a tree there, and it hit the tree, and it crashed. And ever since it crashed, the bottom sensor didn't work at all. So like the whole bottom of my drone is broken. So what it does now is, I'm not even joking, it'll be hovering and it'll just fall out of the sky. It just drops. And it's like, you have no idea where it's going. I can do whatever I want on the sticks, and it'll sort of pay attention to what I'm doing on the sticks, but it'll keep dropping down.
Just
so there was a shot.
Over water.
Yeah, there was a shot where I was doing a water crossing, and that's when you use the drone, because you can just send the drone over there, right?
Yeah.
So I got it really high because I knew that it was going to fall. So I got it really high and I started moving it. Sure enough, it falls out of the sky. Sean's like, "Did you just crash your drone again?" I was like, "There's nothing I can do. I told you I was probably going to lose it this trip." I didn't lose it. I ended up keeping it, but I had to go through the bush to find it. But yeah, it's pretty funny.
So speaking of that, actually, I thought I saw something where you lost some of your footage from that trip.
Yeah, I lost all my footage from that trip. So my main camp, that's where the story was. I had so much good footage on that. It's heartbreaking, really. I have the last 3 days of the trip on my camera, which, as we talked about before, like once you hit those roads, they're pretty much cleared out. There's not much that happens the last 3 days, but those first 7 days are, they're crazy. And I had all this. My perspective was completely different than Sean's. I was all about like finding. There's that water crossing with the canoe. I don't know if you watched the video. But,
yes. Yep.
There's a part where there's a water crossing. Braun steps into this canoe that was left there, and he paddles across the water and he does some chainsawing. Well,
yeah.
I went down to the water to film it, and when I got down there, you can see the old bridge is under the dirt that's been washed away.
Okay.
So on top of it, you would never notice because it's just grass that's grown, but there was an old bridge there that was made out of wood, and the wood is still there. So I had like tons of B-roll of that, of like, this is where they crossed. Like, probably horse and carriage drove on that bridge. There's a whole bunch of like cars you wouldn't believe. Like there's, it's like a cemetery out there for old vehicles that just didn't make the trip. Some of them are not even old. We saw like a Ford Ranger out there that was pretty new. And there was a hijack lift attached to it. They were trying to get it out and couldn't get it out. And they just abandoned it.
Just left it, yeah.
What do you do? The tow truck is not going to get out there.
BCAA doesn't come there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, so my perspective was like, the difficulty of the trail and the history, but the actual footage of the history, not just about what it was about. I had all these great shots. There was a lodge there that was built by some hunters, and
the old Pan Phillips Lodge, and
the Pan Phillips Lodge was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's towards the end, but at Cluscoil Lake, there was another lodge that's maintained by these hunters. So there was a guest book there, and the very first entry is of these guys, and they said, welcome to our lodge, use everything. And they had fishing rods there for you to use. They had anything you wanted, pots and pans. They even had bedding on the beds, super clean. I don't know how it was so clean. I had one of the guys we were with, he was reading that first entry, and I had all these shots of the lodge. And all gone. It's all gone. It's just a memory.
Man. I can't imagine. Like my heart just sinks, right? Like I can't imagine.
So I'm planning on making a video anyway. Like I've done about half of the video of the footage that I have, but the footage that I have is going to be more of your typical GoPro footage. Like this is what the trail looks like. Here's a water crossing. Here's some trees. And it's got none of the story. Doesn't have anything to do with the lodge. You can't see the lodge. It's not there.
Yeah.
So
that's rough. I feel so bad for you.
Yeah.
That's rough.
I'll make something of it. It's just so heartbreaking knowing what I had and what, it's like getting a new book and you're only going to get the last 3 chapters.
Yeah, exactly. So my next question was, what are some of your biggest struggles in creating content? But I think we just answered that.
Losing footage. My last video, the one of the Kraken,
Yeah.
About 6 hours before I uploaded it, it deleted my whole timeline. So I had to remake the whole video. But this is the second time this has happened to me. And it's funny how long it takes you to remake something because you
Yeah.
don't have to find music. You don't have to find what portion of the clip you're going to use. You know, this one time I was 3 days into an edit and I lost all my footage, and like on the timeline, I mean.
Right. Yeah.
And it took me 15 minutes to get it back because you knew what pieces to use. You knew what song and what
Well,
parts.
that's half the
song.
battle is like you say, especially with video. Like podcasting's not so bad. I just go through and edit and take out some ums and things like that. But video, you're using B-rolls, you're using music, you're using all kinds of different things. So the editing is really a lot more to it for sure.
Yeah.
What are you using for software?
I'm using DaVinci Resolve. But the answer to the other question, my biggest, the hardest thing for me is, this is going to sound so weird, but is to remember to pick up the camera. Sean and I actually have a joke. So we used a mug the first time we went out, or the second time, I can't remember. I have a mug, just a random mug, and I gave it to him for coffee or whatever. And it says on it, "Enjoy the moment." And there's no point to that. Like, it's just a random mug that I just grabbed out of the kitchen,
Yeah.
And so he started making fun of the "Enjoy the Moment" mug. And when we would go out, I would never film because I would literally just enjoy the moment. And then he's like, "I'm gonna get you a mug that says vlog the moment." Like, it's the hardest thing to do for me, is especially sitting around the campfire. I want to just crack a beer, enjoy the campfire. The last thing I want to do is pick up my camera, make sure the settings are okay, make sure it's framed right, And so that's the biggest struggle for me, is just doing it like that. But now that I've understood camera settings a bit better, it's become a lot more enjoyable. Now I want to capture it because I understand the camera settings. I understand framing a little bit better. It tells the part of the
your
story.
videos have definitely improved over the years, and I think that pretty much goes for a lot of people, right? I mean, yourself or Mike from the Unexpected Off Road, his videos lately have been really good. And
lately, they've been really good.
Yeah, and I was watching a little while ago where him and I did together about a year ago, and then I watched one of his latest videos right after it, and it's just a huge difference, right? So same thing with you. You take a look at one of your videos from a year ago or 2 years ago and compare it to your later video, it's definitely improvement, right? So So what advice would you give to somebody who wanted to start their own YouTube channel?
Oh, you have to do it. Everybody has to have their own YouTube channel. It's so true. What you do with it doesn't matter. For me, the big thing was I had to start doing the boxing videos, right? And then I don't watch TV. I don't at all. I don't watch movies even. I can't sit through a movie. But I would watch, before I knew him, I would watch Sean's videos. And because he's just so good at capturing the beautiful BC, really. Like that, I loved seeing the shots. So for me, that's what I wanted to do. Like, if I was going to sit down and edit something, it had to be visually great. I'm not there yet. I'm working on it. It's work in progress, but
you're getting there.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I feel like I've definitely improved. And so for me, it was just all about capturing these shots. What happens outside of that, I think because I've been fortunate enough to know Sean, and the other things that come with a YouTube channel have all played out for me really well. Now I've got, can I mention my sponsors?
Yep. Definitely. We're going to get into that for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. So now I've got Epic Adventure Outfitters on board, and more recently I have White Rock Dodge on board, and and that's not going to happen for everybody, but at the end of the day, having a YouTube channel is going to give you opportunity. But more importantly, I actually almost quit doing the YouTube stuff. There's a gap in my videos. There's two gaps. The more recent one was not on purpose. The more recent one was because I didn't have the Alexander Mackenzie footage. I didn't have any of my gear. They were trying to get it back. And then making the video of Alexander Mackenzie was taking so long because I was trying so hard to edit GoPro footage and making it cinematic and doing all the things. Eventually I had to abandon ship. Like, I'd still be working on that video and it wouldn't be done yet. So eventually I had to abandon ship on that one. But the previous one to that was like, I was already burnt out. I was already, like, the YouTube channel is not going anywhere. It costs so much money to go away. All these things. I did the 1 year review or 1 year like overview video. And that video, I did it for me just to see, you know, what I'd done this year. Like, is
Yeah.
it worth it? And
Yeah.
towards the end of that video, I say a quote that my friend told me, which is, you can always make more money, but you can never buy more time. And watching that video of the year, to me, it was time well spent, right? And you'll remember the times that you went away or whatever, but when you have footage, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, it could be a family outing, it could be anything. It's just like what you mentioned, when you go away, you only take a couple pictures of the trip. If you can just get a couple more, even if nothing happens with it, it's there to look back on. You're not going to look back on it for years, but 10, 15, 20 years down the road, you go back, you look, I promise you'll be very happy you took those pictures. Yeah. Well, the thing is, you're out there anyway, right? You're already out there anyway. So you might as well bring back some memories of it. And
the one thing, like I'm going to throw a plug in here. I have the Vintage 4x4 Canada YouTube channel. And what I do with that, a lot of it is taking the old 8mm videos or the VHS videos and converting them over to digital and then throwing them up onto that YouTube channel. I've got a bin here from the Nesty family here in Kamloops, and I was just watching one before you and I got on board. I just downloaded one from an off-road race in Princeton in 1974. Wow. So, I mean, I'm going to put that into like 2 or 3 videos, but stuff like that, like you mentioned earlier, you may not think about it in next week or a month down the road, but your stuff, Theo, your son, is going to be able to look back on in 20 years, or even you as a grandfather or whatever are going to be able to look back on those, and it's going to bring those memories right back to life.
Right.
Absolutely. So
yeah, and that's exactly it. But somebody, for the footage that you're converting there, like somebody had to stop, and instead of just enjoying the moment, they had to pick up the camera and capture that so that they can enjoy the moment longer, right? One more thing. So like about the YouTube channel. So I recently just did a podcast about social media, and something that I thought about was the self-consciousness or whatever that goes and gets involved when you make a video, right? A lot of people don't want to be on camera shy. What if people don't like my video? But YouTube is not sending your video to people that aren't going to like it, right? YouTube's whole job is to send your video to people that will like it. So that's the first thing. But you are going to get haters. They're all over the place. But yeah, so the thing about YouTube is your one video gets posted on YouTube that day. Here's the crazy part. 3.4 million videos are uploaded to YouTube every day. That's not the crazy part. It's part of the crazy part.
Yeah.
The other part is 5 billion videos get watched every day. Yeah. So think about that. It's like, so your video does matter, in the world's a big place. Somebody wants to watch what you have to offer, whatever it is. There's an audience for everybody out there, and you just got to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the really neat things, I mean, in BC, we have a lot of people doing YouTube videos. We've got, G from BC. We've got, of course, Sean, the Story Till Now, and Mike, the Unexpected Off-Road, and even, Colin from Overlanding Overland, Colin on the island with his sense of humor and mocking the overland world when he's an overlander. But I mean, say you go out with yourself and Sean, you take a look at your 2 videos, totally different perspectives. And that's one of the things I really like. I mean, we've got a bunch of great YouTube channels in BC, but everybody's putting their own twist on it and their own spin on it, and different views, different thoughts. You can watch a video where the 2 of you guys go on the same trip and it's a totally different outcome. And that's really neat to see,
It puts the whole picture together when you get the different perspectives.
Let's switch gears a little bit. What do you eat when you're camping? When you're by yourself, and then when you're with your family? Because I know I go, sometimes I'll, like Gary and I were talking about this, G from BC, we're talking, and these like Smokies. Sometimes I just sit by the fire and chew on a Smoky. Yeah. And then sometimes, we'll have a, all out meal, right? So how's it work with you?
He's not joking. He's literally he gets the pack of Smokies, he puts it on a stick, and then he'll just eat Smokies. Like, that's it. So for me, again, the way I grew up was my mom was a big cook, so she would always make crazy meals, and
Yep.
when I started doing this, that was a big part of doing it all, was I wanted to get to cool places and have cool meals. It's since changed because rolling with Sean and the boys, there is no time for big meals. It's
Right.
pack up and go. So I try to do prep at home and then throw everything into tin foil or whatever it is. And then you get out there and it's just a matter of warming it up and you'll get some good meals. I do mix it up pretty often, but my go-to would be veggies. So you just take whatever veggies you want and I wrap that up in tin foil with mushrooms and stuff. And then
And a lot of times I'll actually do the same thing, but I'll pre-cook it.
Yep, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Throw the potatoes in the microwave.
Right.
Chop them up into little pieces, throw them in the microwave, pre-cook it, and say something like broccoli or whatever, just pre-cook it a little bit. And so that way it's, Sorry, go ahead.
Doesn't take so much time.
Exactly.
No, exactly it.
Yeah.
So I'd like boil the potatoes and then I'll wrap it up like ready to go, like seasoned, ready to go.
Yep.
Throw it in the fridge. And then when we get there, just pull it out, throw it on top of the barbecue or whatever, and then away we go. When we're really stuck, I do like the canned soup, easy peasy. That's
Craft
pretty
dinner.
much it. Like, I don't do the craft dinner thing. Sean loves the craft dinner thing. I don't do it. I'll do like the canned soup, I don't know what they're called, but like minestrone or whatever.
Yeah.
If I'm really stuck, but it doesn't take long to get some chicken breast going or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, I do like to eat well out there for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think it does help out, especially energy wise.
Yeah. Big time.
I found that, especially if I'm out for 2 or 3 days and I'll have craft dinner or, chips or pretzels or whatever, I gotta throw, even for lunch, I gotta have an apple or throw some vegetables and some fruit out there because, in the morning have my granola with, some strawberries or blueberries because otherwise if I eat crap, I don't have the energy. To do, to do it. So
that was the thing.
I don't drink coffee, but apparently you love it.
I love coffee. Especially out there. That's what you gotta enjoy your coffee out there. I love it.
I've seen a few videos where they've been talking about you and your coffee. So
yeah, there was one that was like a bacon latte. I don't know how the joke started, but there was like a joke for actually went near you, in Kamloops there.
Yeah.
What's the fire look out there? Not Cornwall.
Greenstone.
Greenstone. I went to Greenstone, and then I made a latte with bacon bits on top. So I had to make bacon, make the latte, made it all cinematic. And
That's awesome.
There was a point where I really wanted to add the cooking to the channel, but everybody started doing it, and then now everybody hates it. So I don't want to make boring videos, so I don't do it.
Well, I do actually want to get some people that really are good cooks on here and talk about some camping recipes and that, because
for sure.
I think, some people, like you say, are just like, G from BC where smoky is good enough, but a lot of people like to sit down and have a good proper meal. So
yeah,
for sure.
You were talking about the energy thing on the Alexander Mackenzie. Like, we needed high energy food. So it was every day we had proper meals. The trick to that one was I brought so much chicken breast. There was so much chicken breast. And I would barbecue a whole bunch of it all at once. And then we ate what we ate, and whatever was left over, I would just shred it and put it into a Ziploc bag, throw it in the fridge. The next day, you just add some cheese, some lettuce or whatever. Then you have like your wrap, right? You just throw it in a wrap, and then you got just a good chicken wrap the next day.
Yep. Yeah, it's all about the prep, right? So, so you're working together with some companies lately. Let's give a shout out to those guys that you're working together with.
All right, I have to give the biggest shout out to Epic Adventure Outfitters. These guys were the first ones to sponsor me, and it was a huge blessing. So thank you very much to Epic Adventure Outfitters. If you guys have a Jeep and need any work done to it, please give them a call. Let them know I sent you. It would help me out, and
they do mail order as well too. So if you're in Alberta or somewhere else, they'll ship stuff out as well too. So
it's all
definitely
on the website.
Definitely let them know that Teddy sent you for sure.
Absolutely, make sure that they don't regret it.
Sean did not send you. Teddy did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and I met them through Sean, right? Sean was
I know.
a huge part of that. Yeah. But it's extra funny because the owner of Epic Adventure Outfitters, his name is Paul. He's
Mhm.
the guy that built my Jeep, and he built it for himself. And I didn't put two and two together because when I saw it, it didn't have the logos on it. It didn't have anything. So we went to
Right.
go to buy it. And Sean said, yeah, that's Paul's Jeep. And I was like, that's where I've seen this before. And it's like, I couldn't put two and two together. But yeah, I ended up having his old Jeep. The new one, super exciting. This is like the first month that we were really working together is with White Rock Dodge. To be honest, prior to this, I bought my first vehicle from them in 2015. I bought three more, I guess four more now from them. Now they're sponsoring the channel, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I've had nothing but great experiences. I live in Port Coquitlam. I drive to White Rock just to deal with these guys. And this is prior to any of this stuff. So it has nothing to do with any of this. And they've always been great to me. And now, you know, to have them as a partner on the channel is huge. To give you an idea, from Port Coquitlam to there is about an hour drive.
Yeah.
I have lots of dealerships between here and there that I could have stopped at, but they've just been so good. So I just keep going back. Outside of that, I have Ferretti tents. My tent is a Ferretti tent. And BF Campers is the company that hooked me up with my awning and the shower room. And I'm hoping to do a little bit more work with them. We'll see what happens in the future. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. Everything is so moving so fast right now. It's crazy. So yeah, it's exciting times.
Definitely don't mind supporting your supporters, right? So
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, these are local people and Canadians as well, and it's been wild. It's and you know the group that we have wheeling out here and outdoors. It's really good. I see like the comments on the internet, you know, and people can be pretty mean on the internet, but in real life, I've never had a bad experience in real life.
Yep.
It's always been extremely positive. Everybody's so helpful, you know. It's awesome.
I think overall the 4x4 community is pretty great overall. I agree with you on that. The last question that we ask every guest is, what Canadian would you like to listen to on the 4x4 Canada podcast?
I have a bunch actually.
Sure, let's do them.
Of course, you got to get Sean on from the Storytell Now. That'd be one. It's a podcast, so I would say the KC250, of course.
Yes. Yep.
He likes to talk. And then here's the other one. There's two more. Paul from Epic Adventure Outfitters. Only because outside of Epic Adventure Outfitters, super interesting guy. He's been all over the place. I'm sure he's got some great stories about using the rigs and what it takes out of a rig to get to some of these places. He's the guy that would know all that information. And then the last one, which I think would be awesome, it would be Chris, who has the Hummer H1 that I was talking about. Awesome guy, interesting stories that he has. And he's big into the wheeling. He wants to get out every weekend. He's got one of the coolest rigs I've ever seen, period, with that Hummer H1 on 42s. It's a thing, it's a beast, and he wheels it hard too. So it's pretty cool.
That's great. That's one I don't have on my list yet. So that's that's a great one for sure. So
Yeah.
I definitely agree. You know, Sean and Casey, they're both on my list. I have a big list, I have to admit, and I just kind of go through and I'm trying to mix it up between the YouTube people and the businesses and racing. And a couple of days I got a interview coming up with Leanna Davies. She drives a mega truck, so like a big 2,500 horsepower mega truck, and she's also president of the Northwest Mud Racing Association, and her and her husband own the horsepower ranch up in 100 Mile. But so I'm trying to mix it up with everybody, right? So
Yeah.
It's been really interesting having people making suggestions at the end of each episode, and there's some people that I have thought about, of course, you know, Sean and Casey and Paul from Epic, but there's other people that I hadn't thought about. And it's like, oh yeah, why didn't I think about these people? These are, you know, great people to have on board, like Chris with the Hummer. And there's been some really neat suggestions that, and then when people explained why, and it's like, okay, I got to talk to these people. So that's great suggestions again, once again, for sure. So awesome. Beautiful. Well, we're talking to Teddy from the Unwinding Roads. You can check him out on YouTube, of course, where he's got some pretty epic videos. Also, check out his Instagram. He's pretty active on his Instagram, so definitely worth checking out. And again, I really want to thank you for coming on board, Teddy. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been a really good conversation. It's funny how I always think, oh, it's going to have like a half hour or 45-minute conversation, and then they end up being an hour and a half long.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, and I got to get out to Kamloops there. I love it there. I go there all the time. It's one of my favorite places
Definitely.
to go.
Yeah.
So you got to take
that place that you
there.
and Sean went on the north side of Kamloops Lake.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite little local spots. And there's some others that we'll get, we'll get Mike to come over. And once again, Teddy, really appreciate you coming on board, and we will get together soon, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me once again.